My name is Ava Coleman, and I'm 29 years old. 5 weeks ago, my boyfriend decided to announce to Facebook that he needed to walk away from toxic women who keep score. So I helped him walk. I packed his suitcases, lined them up on my driveway, snapped a photo, and tagged him with the caption, "Start walking." Every time I replay it in my head, it sounds dramatic, petty, over the top. The kind of thing people share as a meme with savage in the comments. It wasn't a meme from where I was standing. It was the end of 8 months of being slowly turned into a walking, talking resource. A wallet with feelings. Before all of that, it looked normal. Textbook, even. I bought my house 3 years ago, before Dylan was even a name in my phone. It's a small place, 3 bedrooms, an overworked AC unit, a yard that always seems a week away from going feral. But it's mine. My name on the deed. My signature on the mortgage. My weekends spent repainting cabinets and YouTubing how to fix a garbage disposal. By the time I met Dylan, I'd paid down a good chunk of the mortgage and built a routine most people would call boring in a good way. He was 27, all easy smiles and messy hair, working in marketing. I'm in software development. We met at a friend's birthday. He laughed at one of my drier jokes. I liked that he didn't flinch when I talked about interest rates and Roth IRAs, and suddenly we were Ava and Dylan. 8 months ago, he moved into my house. That part sounds simple, but the lead up is where I should have paid more attention. Before he moved in, Dylan was renting a studio for $1,400 a month. He complained about it constantly. "This city is insane," he'd say, flopping onto my couch. "I'm throwing money into a furnace. For what? A shoebox with a window that looks at a brick wall?" I'd nod, half listening, half watching, the way he ordered DoorDash like it didn't hurt, the way his nails were always perfectly done at the barber shop, the new sneakers that showed up suspiciously often. I knew he wasn't broke, he just wasn't disciplined, and I told myself that was okay. Not everyone tracks their spending in spreadsheets. Not everyone has color-coded categories and sinking funds. Then one night he said, if we lived together, we'd both save a ton. I mean, it just makes sense, right? I should have heard the emphasis on we and asked what we actually meant. Instead, I heard the part where I'd get more nights falling asleep next to him. More mornings with his arm thrown over my waist like I was something he meant to keep. We made an agreement. Simple on paper. No rent, I told him, because I already own the place. Just chip in $600 a month for utilities and groceries and we're good. He grinned. "Ava, that's more than fair. Seriously, you're a lifesaver." First month he paid on time. Venmo, neat and clean, just like we'd discussed. We went out for Thai food to celebrate and toasted to being responsible adults. Second month he said, "Hey, can I pay you next week?" Tight month. My car registration hit and my card bill was higher than I thought. I shrugged. "Sure, next week is fine." Next week became the week after that. Became, "I'll just tack it on to next month." By month 6, I'd receive maybe $2,000 total. It should have been $3,600. That $1,600 difference sat in my stomach like a rock I kept swallowing over and over. Every time I saw a new Amazon package with his name on it, every time he snapped a photo of his fresh fade, every time he came home waving takeout containers 4 nights a week, the rock got heavier. I stopped asking. I didn't want to be that girlfriend, the nag, the one who keeps score. Funny how that phrase ended up on his Facebook page. The argument that started it was stupid. It always is at first. Last Tuesday night, around 9, I was standing at the sink, wrist deep in soapy water, scrubbing the pan I'd used to cook dinner. Dylan was sprawled on the couch in sweatpants, scrolling on his phone, laughing at something only his For You page understood. "Hey, Dylan," I called. "Can you help clean up? I'm exhausted." He didn't look up. "I had a long day, babe." "I work too," I said, a little sharper than I meant to. "And I cooked." "You offered to cook," he replied. "I didn't ask you to." That one stung in a way that had nothing to do with dishes. I set the pan down and turned, leaning against the counter. "I cook almost every night because you never do," I said. "I'm asking you to wash like 3 plates. That's it." He finally looked up, eyes flat, mouth twisting. "Maybe I would if you didn't act like such a control freak about the kitchen." Record scratch. "Control freak?" I repeated. "Because I don't want to do everything by myself?" He rolled his eyes and locked his phone. "You're always monitoring me, Ava, always with the comments about money, groceries, lights being left on." "Because I'm the one paying the mortgage and most of the bills," I cut in. My voice was quieter now, but colder. "You live here rent-free, Dylan. You've paid maybe $2,000 in 8 months. My mortgage is $2,800 a month, plus utilities, plus food you eat." His cheeks flushed. Wow, are you seriously keeping track like that? I'm keeping track because I have to, I said. Because those numbers come out of my bank account. You're getting a massive discount on life and acting like I'm the problem for wanting basic partnership. He stood up, jaw tight, hands balled into fists at his sides. I can't believe you're keeping score. That's so toxic. Toxic? I laughed, but it sounded wrong, thin. I'm asking you to wash 3 dishes and keep your end of a simple agreement. I'm done with this conversation, he said, grabbing his phone. I need space. You suffocate me when you start in on this stuff. He slammed the bedroom door behind him like we were teenagers. I finished the dishes in silence, staring out the window at the dark backyard that suddenly felt like a stage set. Fake grass, fake peace. By the time I went to bed around 11, he was either asleep or very committed to pretending. He lay with his back to me, phone dark on the nightstand, shoulders rigid. I lay on my side, watching the red numbers on the alarm clock change, and thought, this is what it looks like when someone benefits from you more than they love you. I didn't say it out loud, not yet. The Facebook post came the next morning. I woke up at 6:30, grabbed my phone, and did what every half-anxious millennial does. Check notifications before even sitting up. At the top of my feed, a new post from Dylan. A screenshot of some generic quote graphic. In cursive font over a pastel background, it said, sometimes you have to walk away from toxic women who keep score of every little thing and make you feel guilty for existing. Know your worth, kings. Don't let anyone dim your light. Posted at 11:47 p.m. 20-something likes. Comments from his friends. Facts. Preach, bro. Red flags everywhere. I sat there, coffee cooling on my nightstand, reading strangers' opinions on a situation where I had asked my boyfriend to do dishes and maybe honor the agreement we'd made. He hadn't said my name. He didn't need to. Everyone who knew us knew exactly who the toxic woman was. Something in me shifted, not snapped. Snapping feels careless, impulsive. This felt deliberate, calm, even. You want to walk away from toxic women? Okay, let me open the door for you. I stared at the quote again, then scrolled down and tapped the little thumbs-up icon. Like, I imagined his phone buzzing and his eyes widening in that offended way, like I'd broken some unspoken rule by not staying in my assigned role as villain. Then, in the comments section, I typed, I agree. Sometimes you really do need to walk away. Hit post. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Dylan, did you just comment on my post? Me. Yeah, you're right. People should walk away from toxic situations. Dylan, that wasn't about you. Me. Funny. Posted right after our argument, but okay. Dylan, you're making this a bigger deal than it is. Me. Nope. Just agreeing with your wisdom. In fact, I'm going to help you walk away. Dylan, what's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. I got dressed instead, padded into the garage, and found his suitcases stacked in a corner, dusty from disuse. He'd brought them when he moved in, tossed them there, and never looked back. I brought them inside and set them open on the bed we'd shared last night like we were still on the same team. Then I started packing. His clothes, folded neatly. His shoes, paired and lined up. His bathroom stuff, swept from drawers into toiletry bags. Random tech, cables, the hoodie he loved that still smelled like his cologne. He came out of the bedroom around 7:45, hair sticking up, eyes squinting against the light. He stopped short when he saw what I was doing. What are you doing? He demanded. I didn't look up. Helping you walk away from this toxic woman. Ava, are you serious right now? You posted publicly that you need to walk away, I said, zipping the suitcase. I'm assisting. Clothes, shoes, bathroom stuff, all getting packed. This is insane, he said. It was just a post. A post calling me toxic to all your friends after I asked you to wash dishes, I replied. So yeah, let's solve the problem. You leave. No more toxicity. You can't just kick me out, he snapped. I live here. My house, I said quietly. Your name isn't on anything. You're basically a guest who stopped paying their share months ago. His face crumpled for a second before he caught himself. I need time to find a place, he said. You can't expect me to just leave. You've had 8 months to get ahead, I said. 8 months to pay your share. 8 months to save. You chose new clothes, fresh cuts, constant takeout. You'll figure it out. His eyes went shiny. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged, throat tight. Not my problem. You wanted to walk away. Walk. I finished packing 3 suitcases and 2 boxes, carried them, one by one, to the driveway, and arranged them in a neat, almost artistic row. Then I took a photo, posted it to Facebook, tagged him. Caption, start walking. Posted at 8:30 a.m. His phone started vibrating nonstop. Mine, too. Calls from his mom, his sister, friends who suddenly had opinions. I ignored all of it. "You've got until 6 p.m., I told him, standing in the doorway while he stared at his life in luggage form. "After that, anything left is getting donated." "You can't do this," he said again, weaker this time. "Watch me," I said. He called his mother, sobbing, putting on a show about how I was throwing him out on the street. By 10 a.m., she pulled up to the curb, an older, angrier version of him. "You should be ashamed of yourself," she snapped, stepping out of the car and looking at the suitcases like they were crime scene evidence, putting his belongings outside like trash. "He called me toxic on Facebook," I replied evenly. "I'm solving the problem." "Over dishes?" she scoffed. "You're really ending a relationship over dishes?" "I'm ending a relationship because he lives here rent-free, contributes almost nothing, complains constantly, then publicly calls me toxic for asking him to help clean," I said. Actions have consequences. She loaded the suitcases into her car. Dylan stood on the driveway crying, staring at me like I'd just kicked a puppy. "I can't believe you're doing this," he whispered. "I can't believe you posted that garbage on Facebook," I said. "We're even." They left around 11. By noon, the locksmith had come and gone. New locks, new keys, a new line drawn. I stood alone in my quiet house, phone still buzzing in the other room, and for the first time since Dylan moved in, I could hear something beneath the noise of my own anger. Relief. I had no idea how loud the fallout was about to get. The fallout started before Dylan even cleared the subdivision. I was still standing in the entryway, keys in my hand, when the first notification came through. Ping, tagged in a comment. I picked up my phone. Under my suitcase photo, someone had already written, "Damn, Ava, this is cold." Another, "There's always two sides to a story." Someone else had shared Dylan's quote post and my driveway post back to back like it was some kind of reality show montage. In less than 2 hours, our entire relationship had become content. I put my phone face down on the console table and walked away. The bedroom looked emptier than it should have. His side of the closet was a hollow gap, hangers knocked sideways. I could still see where his shoes had made grooves in the carpet, the dent on his pillow. I stripped the bed, tossed the sheets into the hamper, and opened both windows. The air that came in was chilly but clean. My brain wouldn't shut up. "You could have handled this privately. You could have just asked him to leave. You didn't have to post the picture." Then the other voice, quieter but sharper. "He posted first." In the kitchen, a mug still sat in the sink from his last coffee. I washed it on autopilot, towel moving in smooth circles. I'd spent 8 months cleaning up after someone who resented me for noticing. Now there was just this hum of silence, loud as a siren. By Wednesday afternoon, the messages had escalated. A mutual friend. "Are you okay? I saw the post. That was a lot." Another. "I get that you're mad, but putting his stuff on the driveway like that? That's savage." No one had messaged me the night before when Dylan called me toxic and told the world he needed to walk away from women like me. Of course they hadn't. That post was wrapped in pastel colors and affirmations. Mine had luggage and consequences. I didn't respond to any of them. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and decided if people wanted the full story, they could ask better questions. On Thursday morning, I finally forced myself to do what I'd been avoiding: clean out the rest of Dylan's stuff. The spare bedroom had become his makeshift office. When he moved in, he'd talked about creating a productive workspace. What it actually turned into was a graveyard of half-charged devices and unopened Amazon boxes. I went through drawers, shelves, the closet, old receipts, empty cologne bottles, a shoebox of knotted cords. That's when I found the stack of paperwork, crammed into a folder at the back of the closet like it had been shoved there in a hurry. Bank statements, credit card bills, student loan summaries. I sat down on the edge of the bed, the folder open in my lap, and started reading. One credit card, $2,300 balance. Another, $1,900. A third, $1,600. A store card with some clothing brand logo, $2,600. Minimum payments barely being met, interest piling up like snowdrifts. Total credit card debt, around $8,400. Student loans, $31,000. His take-home pay from his marketing job was about $2,800 a month, if I was reading the stubs right. Rent at his old studio had been $1,400. He'd been living on a financial tightrope before he ever touched my doorknob. "That's why," I murmured to myself. "That's why you moved in so fast." It wasn't just love, it wasn't just wanting to wake up next to me. I was a solution. $600 a month to live in a house instead of a shoebox. No lease, no shared mortgage, no responsibility if anything broke. $600 a month he barely even paid. I set the bills aside and kept going through the folder. At the bottom, half squashed between envelopes, was a notebook. Spiral bound, dark blue cover, corners bent. I hesitated. Diary. The word flashed in my mind with an instant, automatic don't attached. He'd left it here. He hadn't asked for it. He'd called me toxic publicly, tried to weaponize people against me. That righteous part of me that tracks every number and every slight said, "You have a right to know what he was thinking." The part of me that still remembered him kissing my forehead after long days said, "This is invasive." I opened it anyway. The first few pages were boring. To-do lists, random affirmations, scribbles about campaign ideas for work. Then, halfway through, the tone changed. June 14th. I need to figure out how to stay here long-term without paying as much. Ava acts like $600 is no big deal because she owns the house. It's just numbers to her. Maybe suggest we combine finances. Or get married. If we get married, it's half mine eventually anyway. My fingers tightened around the paper. July 3rd. She brought up money again. So exhausting. I need to train her to stop asking. If I act hurt every time she mentions it, she'll back off. She hates feeling like the bad guy. Train her, like I was a dog or a child. Something to condition, not a partner to talk to. August 22nd. Ava freaked out about the electric bill. It's not my fault she chose a house this big. She keeps mentioning my share like I'm a roommate. She doesn't get that it's our home now. Once she calms down, I'll bring up engagement again. If she's so logical, she'll see it makes sense. Our home. But only one name on every document. September 10th. She's obsessing over numbers again. I swear she loves spreadsheets more than me. I need to find a way to make her feel guilty whenever she brings up money. Then she'll stop. Nobody wants to be the nag. I stopped reading for a minute. My vision had gone blurry. He had written it out like a strategy, a campaign plan. Turn my concern for fairness into a weapon against me. Make me feel like the problem. I flipped to the next page. September 28th. She mentioned the $600 again. I told her it makes me feel like a guest in my own home. She got quiet. Good. I think it landed. Need to keep pushing that angle. My own home. I actually laughed then. This strange, hollow sound in the empty bedroom. This isn't your home, I muttered. It was a discount you thought you could turn into ownership. October 3rd. Talked to Mom about it. She agrees Ava's being controlling. Says if Ava really loved me, she wouldn't care about the money. Mom thinks Ava will come around if I just hold my ground. I closed the notebook slowly. The anger I felt reading his diary wasn't loud. It was cold, a calm, steady flame that licked the edges of every memory. Every time he'd sighed dramatically when I mentioned bills. Every time he'd called me obsessed with money. Every time he'd said, "It's not that serious, Ava. Stop keeping score." He hadn't just been insensitive. He'd been intentional. I went back a few pages and started taking photos with my phone. Every entry about money, every word about training me. Every hint that he was planning a proposal not because he was ready, but because of what marriage would give him on paper. As the images saved to my camera roll and synced to the cloud, I felt safer than I had since the whole thing started. Information is leverage. That's what came to mind. And after reading what he had planned, I didn't feel guilty about knowing. I'd just finished photographing the last relevant page when the doorbell rang. My stomach dropped. I already knew, before I even checked the camera feed on my phone, who it would be. Dylan and his sister. They stood on the porch, framed by the morning light, like a low-budget intervention team. I didn't open the door, not all the way. I unlocked it, cracked it 2 inches, and put the chain across. He saw the movement and stepped closer. "Ava, come on," he said, trying for soft. "Can you just open the door?" "This is open," I said. "What do you want?" His sister crossed her arms, eyes raking over me like she was cataloging flaws. "She needs to get the rest of her things," she said, chin lifting. "Stop being childish." "She got everything," I replied. "I packed it all. Suitcases, boxes, laptop bag. It was all on the driveway by 10 yesterday. What exactly is left?" Dylan shifted his weight. "Some stuff in the bathroom. My cologne, my razor, my—" "Already donated," I said. "Told you 6 p.m. Wednesday, or it was gone. You left at 11. It's Thursday." His sister's nostrils flared. "You can't just donate someone's belongings." "Sure I can," I said calmly. "You were given a deadline. You missed it. Abandoned property is abandoned property." "I didn't miss it," Dylan protested. To be honest, I thought you'd cool down." "So you gambled that I wouldn't follow through," I said. "You lost." He flinched. You're being unreasonable, his sister snapped. She needs to talk to you, to work this out. There's nothing to work out, I said. He wanted to walk away from toxicity. He walked. We're done. You humiliated him online, she said. You think that's not toxic? He called me toxic first, I answered. If you're going to preach about walking away from people like me, don't be surprised when the door locks behind you. Ava, Dylan said, voice dropping, trying for wounded. I made a mistake. I was angry. I shouldn't have posted that. Can't we just... No, I said quietly. You don't get to call me controlling for tracking bills you refuse to pay, label me toxic to your entire friends list, and then act like it was a minor slip-up. His jaw clenched. You're overreacting, his sister muttered. You're trespassing, I said, a little more sharply now. Leave my porch or I'm calling the cops. She scoffed. Wow, you really are something else. As they turned to go, she kicked my trash can over. Plastic hit concrete with a hollow crash. Coffee grounds spilled like confetti across the driveway. Real mature, I thought, but I didn't say it. I just closed the door, slid the chain back, and locked it. My phone buzzed again as I walked away. This time the number was unfamiliar. I answered anyway. Hello? Is this Ava Coleman? A male voice asked. Yes. This is Mark from the law offices of... He rattled off a name I didn't recognize. I'm calling on behalf of our client, Dylan Parker. Of course he'd lawyered up. I sat down at the kitchen table. All right, I said. What can I do for you, Mark, from the law offices of whoever? He cleared his throat. Mr. Parker has retained our services regarding what he alleges was an illegal eviction and improper disposal of personal property. I closed my eyes briefly. Okay. He has informed us that he resided with you for approximately 8 months, the lawyer continued. He paid you $600 in monthly contributions, and you removed his belongings from the residence without appropriate notice. He is seeking compensation. I cut in. I'm going to stop you there. First of all, he did not pay $600 a month. I have all the bank records. In 8 months, he paid a total of $2,000. Second, he is not a tenant. There is no lease, no written rental agreement. He was my boyfriend, living in my house as a guest. 8 months of residence can establish tenancy, the lawyer said smoothly, even absent a formal lease. Then he can prove he paid what he claims, I replied. But he can't, because he didn't. I asked him to leave. He left. He removed his belongings. I gave him a deadline for the rest. He chose not to come back until today. That's not an illegal eviction. That's me asking a guest to go home. Ms. Coleman, he said, we'd prefer to resolve this amicably. He's seeking reimbursement for payments made toward household expenses and for items you allegedly donated. Talk to my lawyer, I said. I'll have him call you. You have legal representation? He asked, surprised. I do now, I said and hung up. I sat there for a long moment, staring at my reflection in the black screen of my phone. This wasn't just a messy breakup anymore. It was going to be a process. Emails and letters and words like tenancy and compensation. He'd written in his diary about training me not to care about money, about guilt-tripping me when I mentioned fairness. He had no idea who he was dealing with. I opened my contacts, scrolled to the name of the real estate attorney who'd handled my closing 3 years ago, and hit call. He picked up on the third ring. Ava, long time no see, he said. How's the house treating you? Structurally sound, I said. Emotionally, it's been busy. I think I need your help. As I launched into the story, Dylan moving in, the $600 agreement, the underpayments, the Facebook posts, the suitcase photo, the law office call, part of me floated above the whole conversation, watching. Watching myself turn what had been framed as toxic overreaction into a clean, documented narrative. A timeline. When I got to the part about the notebook, I hesitated again. Is it bad that I read it? I asked quietly. That I took photos? Morally, that's between you and your conscience, he said dryly. Legally, it's information he left in your home. You didn't break in to get it. You didn't hack anything. You found it while cleaning after he left. So, not illegal, I said. Not in any way that's going to matter here, he answered. And if he's put anything in writing about his intentions around your house, well, let's just say that's useful. After I hung up, I went back to the notebook lying open on the bed. For a moment, I just stared at his handwriting. There was a version of this story where I never found it, where all I had was my gut feeling and the memory of his tone, where he got to spin the narrative to anyone who would listen, that I'd lost my mind, that I'd kicked him out over dishes and a single Facebook post. Now I had something else. Proof that to him, I wasn't a partner. I was a plan. The messages from friends kept coming. One caught my eye because it was from someone I considered real, not just a +1 at couples dinners. Hey, I ran into Dylan. He says you blindsided him. I told him there had to be more to the story. Are you okay? I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Finally, I typed back. I'm okay. There is more to the story. When I'm ready, I'll tell you. For now, just know I didn't kick out a perfect boyfriend over 3 plates. I hit send. Then I went back to the spare room, picked up the folder of bills, the notebook, and my phone with all the photos, and put them in a box labeled with a word I never thought I'd associate with someone I'd once wanted to marry. Evidence. I didn't hear from Dylan for the rest of that day. Not directly, anyway. But the universe has a way of making sure the quiet never lasts long. By Friday morning, the group chat I shared with some mutual friends lit up like a fire alarm. Not because I was in it, no, I'd already muted it, but because they'd apparently started talking about me without realizing I could still see everything. Did you see Ava's post? She really put his stuff outside? Damn, she could have handled that better. I mean, Dylan's post was vague, hers was not. I closed the chat without responding. Let them speculate. Let them decide what parts they wanted to believe. I wasn't explaining myself to an audience that only watched one episode before forming an opinion. By noon, my phone rang. It was my lawyer. Ava, he said in his calm, measured voice. I spoke with the other attorney. I exhaled. Okay, and? He doesn't have a leg to stand on, he said. No lease, no formal rental agreement. Extremely inconsistent payments that you can document. He was a guest. I felt some tension leave my shoulders, but not all of it. What about the belongings I donated? I asked. I told him the deadline. Perfectly legal, he said. Even if we pretend he was a tenant, which he wasn't, the worst-case scenario would require you to store his abandoned property for a reasonable time and provide notice. You gave notice. He retrieved what mattered to him. The rest wasn't worth the return trip. What about this talk of tenancy? I asked. He chuckled. If he wants to claim tenancy, he'd have to prove consistent payments. He can't. And if he tries, we file a counterclaim for unpaid contributions. Right now, he's the one who'd owe you. So he has no case, I said quietly. None, he said. Expect one more bluff letter. Then it'll go silent. After I hung up, I went outside to breathe. My driveway was still slightly stained from where Dylan's suitcases had sat. The trash can his sister had kicked over had left a streak on the pavement. The air felt colder today, like winter had decided to break early. Peace, however temporary, is a strange thing. It feels like standing in a doorway waiting for the next impact. And the next one came faster than expected. That evening, Friday around 7, the doorbell rang. I froze with my hand still on the frame of the dishwasher I'd been loading. My first thought was that Dylan had come back again, maybe with reinforcements this time. I checked the security camera. Not Dylan, but close enough. His sister again, standing on my porch with her arms crossed, jaw clenched, ready for battle. And behind her, Dylan himself, hood up, hands shoved deep into his pockets like he was trying to fold himself smaller. I didn't open the door. Not even the chain this time. I hit the intercom. What do you want? His sister leaned forward, glaring into the camera. Ava, stop avoiding this. Let him get the rest of his stuff. He already did, I said, voice flat. There's nothing left for him here. You missed things, she insisted. He needs his cologne, his shaving stuff, some chargers. Already donated, I said. I told him Wednesday, 6 p.m. That was the deadline. You can't just donate someone's property, she snapped. You keep saying that, I replied, and yet here we are. Dylan finally lifted his head. Ava, he said, voice soft, almost pleading, can we please just talk? Not through a camera, not like this. No, I said, we can't. Why are you being like this? He asked. We were together for 2 years. Doesn't that matter? Yes, it had mattered, but he hadn't treated it like it mattered. I pressed the intercom button again. You went on Facebook, I said, and told your entire network that I was toxic, that I made you feel guilty for existing. You painted yourself as a victim because I asked for help and accountability. Come on, he said. You know I didn't mean... You said it, I cut in, and you said it publicly. His sister threw her hands up. This is ridiculous. You're throwing away a whole relationship over dishes. Stop reducing it to dishes, I snapped. It wasn't the dishes. It was months of him not contributing. It was him gaslighting me about money. It was him deciding to take the breakup public before I even knew there was one. We can work this out, Dylan said quietly. Just open the door. I'm begging you. I didn't answer. I simply hit the disconnect button and walked away. The bell rang again, once, twice, then stopped. A minute later, I checked the camera. They were gone, but it didn't feel over. It felt like the quiet before something worse. And I was right. The worst part arrived the next morning. It was Saturday when my phone rang again. Unknown number. Normally, I'd ignore it. Today, my gut told me to pick up. Hello? Is this Ava Coleman? Yes. This is Human Resources from your employer. My heart dropped straight into my stomach. We've received a complaint, the HR rep said, voice neutral. A report claiming you've been involved in harassment outside of work that may reflect negatively on the company. I closed my eyes. Of course. Of course, this was where the escalation went next. Who filed it? I asked numbly. I can't disclose that, the HR rep said, but we need to schedule a meeting to discuss the matter. When? I asked. Monday at 10. My hands were shaking. After the call ended, I stared at my kitchen wall for a long moment, pulse loud in my ears. He hadn't contacted me directly, but someone had, and I could guess who. Monday came too fast. I sat in the HR office with a folder of documents, screenshots of Dylan's Facebook post, screenshots of my own, the timeline I'd typed up, my bank statements, the photos of his diary entries. The HR rep scanned everything slowly, eyebrows rising a little higher with each page. So, she finally said, this was a personal relationship. Yes, I replied. You posted the suitcase photo after he posted about you first. He made our breakup public, I said. I responded publicly. And you have not contacted him since? Not once, I said. I blocked him on everything. She nodded. We will be closing the complaint. This appears to be a personal matter, unrelated to your work. But for your own sake, I would suggest keeping future conflicts offline. Relief hit me so hard my eyes stung. As I stood to leave, the HR rep cleared her throat. One last thing, she said. The person who made this complaint may not have been Mr. Parker himself. I froze. She didn't confirm. She didn't have to. Dylan's sister. Of course. I left work early that day. Not because HR told me to, because I needed air. When I got home, I sat in my car for a full minute, gripping the steering wheel, breathing through the leftover adrenaline. My house loomed in front of me, quiet, tidy, the blinds drawn like it was holding its breath with me. Inside, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I debated letting it ring. Then I picked up. Ava, a familiar voice snapped immediately. We need to talk. Dylan's mother. Of course. I leaned against the counter and closed my eyes. No, I said. We really don't. My son is devastated, she said. He hasn't slept. He hasn't eaten. He's having panic attacks. That's not my responsibility, I said. You threw him out with nowhere to go. He's living with you, I replied. He's fine. He is not fine, she hissed. And you know what else? He told me you stole something. His grandmother's necklace, a family heirloom. I paused. Ah, that part. I did vaguely remember seeing a necklace while packing. A small silver chain, nothing fancy, tossed into a drawer with loose change and old receipts. I had thrown it into a donation pile without checking. But after what Dylan had done, the Facebook stunt, the legal threats, the HR complaint, I didn't feel 1 ounce of guilt. If it was important, I said, he should have picked it up Wednesday. He had the deadline. He chose not to. You had no right to donate valuable family property. You had every opportunity to retrieve it, I said calmly. I gave a very reasonable deadline. This isn't over, she snapped. The line went dead. I stared at my reflection in the microwave door. It wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning, 2 police officers rang my doorbell. I opened it, heart steady, because I'd expected this part too. One officer cleared his throat. Ma'am, we received a report about stolen property. I nodded. You must be referring to Dylan Parker. They exchanged a glance. Yes, one said. He claims you withheld a valuable necklace belonging to his grandmother. I didn't withhold anything, I said. I asked him to remove all belongings by Wednesday at 6. He retrieved what mattered to him. The rest was abandoned. I donated it. Do you have proof? The officer asked. I reached into the folder on my console table and handed them a Goodwill donation receipt. The officer looked at it, sighed, and handed it back. Ma'am, this is a civil matter, he said. We can't enforce anything here. Behind them in the street, I could see Dylan sitting in his mother's car, staring straight ahead, jaw clenched tight. His mother was in the driver's seat, gesturing angrily. The officer stepped back. Ma'am, you're free to go about your day. Thank you, I said. I closed the door. And finally, I let myself laugh. Quiet, breathless disbelief at how absurd it all was. My ex-boyfriend had turned a breakup into a legal threat, an HR complaint, a police visit, and a family crusade. All because he couldn't pay $600 a month and didn't like that I noticed. I leaned against the door, exhaling. I wasn't scared anymore. I was just done. Completely, absolutely done. And the story wasn't finished. Not even a little bit. It took almost a full hour after the police left for the shaking in my hands to stop. Not fear, not guilt. Adrenaline. The kind you get when you realize you've been fighting a battle you didn't even know you'd signed up for. I made myself tea and sat on the couch, cradling the mug like a lifeline. My house felt quiet again, but not peaceful quiet. More like the eerie silence after a thunderstorm when you're waiting to see if another bolt will hit. And another bolt did hit. That Sunday afternoon, I ran into a mutual friend at the grocery store. Not one of those flaky acquaintances. Someone I actually liked. Someone who had been to my house for game nights. She spotted me by the apples. "Ava," she said carefully. "Hey, can we talk?" I wanted to say no. I wanted to keep pushing my cart toward the exit and pretend I didn't hear her. But I stopped, out of habit, or politeness, or maybe a lingering desire to be understood. She lowered her voice. "So, I saw the Facebook posts." Of course she did. Everyone did. I couldn't go online without seeing someone share a screenshot of Dylan's pastel toxic women quote, followed by my suitcase's photo like they were comparing before and after pictures. "And?" I asked. She exhaled through her nose, the kind of breath someone takes before giving their balanced opinion. "I know there are two sides to every story, but Ava, the suitcase's post was brutal." There it was, the chorus line. I knew the script by heart. "You went too far. You escalated things. You could have handled it privately." But no one had messaged Dylan to tell him his post was brutal. No one had slid into his DMs to tell him he could have handled the breakup privately. They saw his soft colors, his victim narrative, his vague wording. They saw my blunt truth, my photo evidence, my refusal to play a quiet villain. "I'm not humiliated you," I said. I agreed with him. He said he needed to walk away from toxic women, and I helped. She winced a little. "I get that, but you know what I mean." "No," I said, "I really don't." "He said you threw him out with no warning." I looked her dead in the eyes. "He lived in my house for 8 months, paid less than a third of what he agreed to, publicly called me toxic for asking him to wash dishes. That wasn't a relationship anymore. That was me subsidizing a lifestyle he felt entitled to." She opened her mouth, then closed it. "I didn't know," she whispered. "Of course you didn't," I said. "Because he didn't post that part." She nodded slowly, processing. I'm sorry. You're right. That changes everything." But it didn't change everything. People hear what they want to hear, and Dylan was very, very good at playing the wounded boy. By the time I left the grocery store, the familiar pit in my stomach had been replaced with something harder. Resolve. On Tuesday morning, 2 weeks after the breakup, I received the letter, a real physical demand letter from Dylan's lawyer, printed on heavy paper with a neat, embossed header. Like a wedding invitation, except instead of RSVP cards and seating charts, it listed dollar amounts Dylan believed he deserved. $4,800. Reimbursement for 8 months of household contributions. $3,200. Estimated value of the donated items. $2,000. Emotional distress. Total $10,000. I laughed out loud. $10,000. For a man who had contributed so little that I could have billed him for unpaid expenses. I forwarded the letter to my lawyer. He called within an hour, snorting before he even finished speaking. "Ava," he said, "this letter is garbage." "That's what I thought," I said. "Can you prove he didn't pay the $600 monthly?" "Yes," I said, "bank statements. He paid $2,000 total." "Perfect," he said. "And the items?" "He'd need to prove the value of everything you donated. He can't, and emotional distress isn't compensable in this kind of dispute." "So, what do we do?" "We send a response telling him to either prove his claims or drop them. And we make clear that if he continues, we'll counterclaim for unpaid contributions, which he definitely does not want." "Good," I said, "do it." After I hung up, I sat back on the couch and let my eyes drift up to the ceiling. There's a special kind of exhaustion that comes from dealing with someone who refuses to clean up the mess they made. Someone who will use every tool, public sympathy, legal threats, HR complaints, family guilt trips, just to avoid admitting they were wrong. Someone who mistakes entitlement for love. Someone who mistakes consequences for cruelty. The next escalation came Wednesday morning. I opened my work email, expecting bug reports or meeting reminders, and instead found a message from HR. "Please schedule a follow-up meeting regarding the personal matter discussed last week." My heart flipped. Not again. I called HR immediately, stomach tightening. "Hi, this is Ava. I received your message and—" "Yes," the HR rep said. Another complaint was filed. I closed my eyes. "From who?" "We can't disclose that," she said gently. "But it's the same allegation, harassment. this time claiming you're publicly defaming someone. Dylan's sister. Again. I showed up for the meeting with a new folder of documentation. HR's expression when she saw the materials was almost pity. This looks like retaliation, she said quietly. We're going to close this case as well. Thank you, I said, meaning it. Before I left, the HR rep added, for your peace of mind, the person who called us this time wasn't your ex. It was a female family member. I nodded. I didn't need the name. I didn't need the voice. I could picture the smirk clearly. When I got home that night, another voicemail waited for me. His mother again. Ava, she snapped. This is getting ridiculous. My son is hurting. My son is suffering. Is that what you want? I didn't return the call. I didn't have to. Because the next morning she called again, from a different number. And this time I picked up. What do you want, Mrs. Parker? I asked. My son is depressed, she said immediately. He's not eating. He's crying. I had to take him to urgent care because he had a panic attack. That sounds like a personal crisis, I said. Not my responsibility. You ruined him! He posted that we were toxic and needed to walk away, I said evenly. I agreed. You threw him out over chores. No, I corrected. I ended the relationship because he freeloaded, manipulated, gaslit, lied about money, and weaponized social media. She sucked in a breath. You read his diary. He left it, I said. I found it while cleaning. It had information I needed to understand the situation. You twisted his words. I documented them, I said. Those are not the same thing. Silence. Then, you're a cruel person. No, I said calmly. I just stopped being useful to your son. I hung up and blocked her newest number. One less voice trying to rewrite the story. By Friday, the legal storm had quieted. My lawyer had sent the response letter, and Dylan's side had gone silent. But peace never lasted long in this saga, because that night, around dinner time, I received one more text from an unknown number. A new angle, a new accusation. Ava, I left something important in your house, my grandmother's necklace. I need it back. I stared at the message, slow anger spreading through me. If it was such a priceless heirloom, why did he leave it behind? Why didn't he grab it when packing? Why didn't he come before the deadline? I typed back. I don't have it. It was donated with the rest of the abandoned items. The reply came instantly. You donated a family heirloom? Are you insane? If it was important, you should have picked it up Wednesday. You missed the deadline. It's not my problem. Then, predictably, I'm calling the police. I actually laughed aloud. Let him. I had receipts. I had documentation. I had proof of deadlines and messages and instructions he ignored. And more importantly, I had finally stopped caring about his outrage, about his mother's theatrics, about his sister's crusade. The smoke of their drama no longer suffocated me. I left the text on read. I went to bed with my windows open and my house finally feeling like mine again. But the next morning, there would be a knock at my door, and this time it wasn't Dylan. It wasn't his sister. It wasn't his mother. It was the arrival of the one visit I knew would come sooner or later. Dylan's lawyer, and the beginning of the final battle. Saturday morning. I had barely brewed a cup of coffee when my doorbell rang. Not a quick press, not an accident. The long, deliberate kind people use when they want you to know they're not leaving. I didn't rush. I set my mug down, walked to the door, and checked the camera feed. 2 police officers stood on my porch, and parked at the curb behind them. Dylan's mother's minivan. Of course she'd escalated. I opened the door halfway, enough to show I wasn't hiding, not enough to invite anyone inside. Ma'am, one officer said, nodding politely, we got a report about stolen property. I almost laughed, but I didn't. Not yet. Let me guess, I said. This is about a necklace. The 2 officers exchanged a look. Yes, ma'am, a valuable family heirloom, according to the report. I see, I said. Well, come on in. I'll show you what I have. They stepped inside the entryway, but stayed close to the door. They weren't here to search. They weren't here to accuse. They were here because someone had called them with a dramatic story. I handed them the documents I had ready, because I knew this moment was coming. A printed copy of the text message I sent Dylan, a screenshot of the message giving him a deadline, a time-stamped photo of his suitcases in my driveway, a Goodwill donation receipt. This, I said calmly, is everything. I gave him until Wednesday at 6. He left at 11 in the morning. He didn't return until the next day with his sister. By then, everything left was considered abandoned. I donated it, legally. The officer glanced through the papers, nodding slowly. Ma'am, he said, at this point, it's a civil matter. We can't enforce anything. If he wants to pursue it, he'd need to file a claim in court. I smiled, just a little. He's tried that too, I said. Didn't go well for him. The second officer closed his notepad. In that case, he said, there's nothing further we can do here. I walked them out to the porch. In the street, Dylan sat in the passenger seat of the minivan, arms folded, shoulders hunched, refusing to even look at the house. His mother was gesturing wildly, mouthing something I couldn't hear. The officers approached her car. I didn't need to hear the conversation. I knew exactly how it went. Civil matter. Nothing we can do. She gave a deadline. She donated abandoned property. I saw Dylan's jaw clench. His mother threw her hands up. His sister, who I hadn't even noticed in the back seat, leaned forward, eyes narrowed at me, like she wished she could jump through the window and rip something out of my hands. They drove away in silence, and when the officers left, I closed the door with the calm of someone who was, finally, done being intimidated. Except there was one thing I hadn't told the officers. One thing I hadn't told Dylan. One thing I hadn't told anyone. The necklace? Not donated. I had found it days after the donation, in a small jewelry box buried under one of Dylan's old hoodies in my closet. It was simple, a thin gold chain with a small pendant. Not fancy, not obviously valuable. But after everything he'd done, the Facebook blast, the suitcases scene, the lawyer letters, the HR complaints, the police call, I didn't feel obligated to go chasing him down. If he wanted it, he could ask legally, professionally, and with consequences attached. Which, surprise, surprise, he eventually did. 2 days later, a work number I didn't recognize called me. It wasn't HR this time. It was my lawyer. Ava, he said. I've received another letter from his side. Let me guess, I said. They want the necklace. Correct, he said. They are claiming it is a $4,000 heirloom. I barked out a laugh. They'd inflated the price. Of course they did. That family never met a boundary they didn't try to shove a dollar amount onto. What do you want me to do? He asked. I thought for a long moment. Then, I want this to end. He paused. You're willing to return it? Yes, I said, but on my terms. Which are? I want a legal document saying he received all remaining property and waives all future claims. Signed. Notarized. And you want witnesses present, he said. Yes. And you want this done at your home? Yes. He exhaled thoughtfully. Excellent strategy, he said. I'll draft it. The next afternoon, Dylan's mother called from a new number, her fourth. Ava, she said, voice icy, we accept your conditions. I didn't bother replying. I simply said, tomorrow noon, my driveway. Bring a notary. I slept surprisingly well that night. Not because I was happy, not because the drama was over, but because I finally felt like I had control again, like I wasn't reacting to their chaos but setting my own terms. Sunday, 11:55 a.m. I stepped outside with a folder containing the necklace, the paperwork, and a black pen. At 12:01, the minivan pulled up. Dylan climbed out first, hair unwashed, shoulders sagging. He looked smaller, like the last few weeks had deflated him. His mother followed, face pinched with self-righteous fury. His sister trailed behind, arms crossed, glaring at me like she was hoping for a fight. A notary, an older woman with a clipboard, approached me. Ms. Coleman? She asked. Yes, I said, handing her the document. They can read it over. Dylan skimmed it, eyes darting over the words. This says I'm waiving all future claims, he said. Yes, I replied. He hesitated. His sister shoved his shoulder. Just sign it. Let's get it. He signed. His mother signed as a witness. The notary stamped it with a heavy, final thump. I opened the folder and handed the necklace directly to Dylan. He stared at it, not with nostalgia, not with emotion, but with something uglier. Vindication. As if this tiny piece of metal had somehow proven he'd been right all along. As if getting it back meant he'd won. He tucked it into his jacket pocket. And just when I thought it was over, just when I thought they would finally, blessedly, leave, he turned around. Ava, he said quietly, you didn't have to be so cruel. I held his gaze. You didn't have to call me toxic on Facebook, I said. You didn't have to weaponize your family. You didn't have to lie about money. You didn't have to file false complaints or send legal threats. He swallowed hard. You know I loved you, he whispered. I shook my head. No, I said. You loved living in my house. You loved paying less than you owed. You loved the stability I provided. But me? I stepped closer. You loved convenience, not partnership. His mother gasped. His sister muttered something under her breath. But Dylan just stood there, face crumpling in the smallest, most fragile way. That's not fair, he whispered. Life's not fair, I said. You learned that when your financial plan walked away. They left without another word. No dramatic exit, no shouting. Just quiet footsteps and a driveway that finally felt like mine again. The aftermath was quieter than I expected. No new numbers calling, no threats, no police, no HR. Just silence. And in that silence, something surprising bloomed. Relief. I sat on my porch that evening, watching the sun dip behind the neighborhood rooftops, the sky turning watercolor pink and orange. I thought about everything I'd lost. Some friends who weren't really friends. Peace of mind for a while, a few $100s in lawyer fees. Then I thought about everything I'd gained. Boundaries, clarity, my home, my quiet, my sanity, my future back. And then, unbidden, I thought about that Facebook post. The one he wrote, the one I commented on, the one I replied to, the one that started everything. I opened my phone, scrolled through my feed, found it instantly. There it was, his quote about toxic women, my photo of his suitcases, hundreds of likes, hundreds of comments. I read my own comment again. I agree. A small smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. Then I closed Facebook, set my phone aside, and leaned back. The story was ending, and for the first time in weeks, maybe months, the strange thing about peace is how loud it is when you finally get it back. For the first time in months, I woke up to a quiet house. Not Dylan's half-finished coffee mugs, not the thud of his shoes in the hallway, not the sound of him complaining about slow Wi-Fi while I paid for the entire internet bill. Just silence. My silence. The kind that feels like a deep, slow inhale. For the first week after the necklace exchange, everything stayed still. No new messages, no new numbers calling, no letters, no threats, no cops. Even the mutual friends who once filled my phone with opinions had gone quiet, like they'd gotten bored after the plot twist ended. People love a spectacle, but not the cleanup. I found myself settling into an unfamiliar feeling. Boredom. God, I'd missed boring. One evening, I sat at my dining table running numbers, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. That's who I am. My spreadsheet filled slowly. New locks, $180. Lawyer fees, $850. Lost groceries, utilities, and household expenses. Dylan never paid for, $6,400 a year saved. Emotional labor, immeasurable. Peace of mind, priceless. I closed the laptop, leaned back, and exhaled. Financially, I was ahead. Emotionally, I was finally catching up to myself. People asked if I regretted posting the suitcases, if I regretted making the breakup public, if I regretted letting the world see that messy window into my life. The honest answer? No, I regret nothing. I didn't start the fire. I just refused to suffocate in the smoke. Dylan posted first. He weaponized his friends first. He named me a villain first, even without using my name. Everyone knew who he meant. But here's the part no one saw. I only matched the energy he put out. He wanted public validation. He got public consequences. He wanted to walk away from toxic women. I made the path clear. He wanted sympathy. He got a suitcase photo with perfect natural lighting and a caption he'd never forget. There is a cost to telling lies publicly. Sometimes that cost is 3 suitcases on the driveway. I kept reading the comments for a while, both his and mine. Hers. You deserve better. Know your worth, King. Red flags everywhere. Mine. Savage. You did what needed to be done. Play stupid games. Win stupid prizes. Some people called me heartless. Some people called me a hero. Both were wrong. I wasn't heartless. I wasn't a hero. I was tired. So tired of paying for everything. The bills, the groceries, the date nights, the emotional labor, the comfort he treated like a birthright. I had been trying to build a life with someone who wasn't even building himself. Walking away wasn't strength. It was necessity. A couple of weeks later, I agreed to get coffee with someone new, a friend of a friend. We met at a quiet cafe. Exposed brick, soft music, warm lighting. It felt like the opposite of every dramatic moment of the past 2 months. He had his own place, his own job, his own life, his own bills. We talked about books, movies, terrible work emails. We split the bill without awkwardness. No sighing, no excuses, no guilt. When he asked about my last relationship, I didn't tell him about the Facebook post or the police or the drama. I just said she wasn't ready to be an equal partner, so it ended. He nodded and didn't ask anything else. It was refreshing. No chaos, no theatrics, no manipulation disguised as sensitivity. Just 2 adults, coffee, light conversation, no unspoken debts between us. Whether it goes anywhere or fizzles into nothing doesn't matter. It simply reminded me what normal felt like. Late one night, curiosity made me open Facebook again. The suitcase post still sat there, 327 likes, countless comments, a breadcrumb trail of everything that had blown up my life. I hovered over the delete button. It would be easy to erase it, to pretend the storm never happened, to hide the evidence of how close I'd come to losing myself. But then I scrolled up to Dylan's original post, the pastel background, the quote about toxic women dimming his light. My comment beneath it, I agree. Both posts remained untouched. A perfect pair. A beginning and an ending. A warning and an answer. So I closed the app and let them stay. Some lessons don't need deleting. Some stories don't need hiding. Some lines in the sand are meant to be permanent. My house is calm now. My fridge has food I buy and eat. My weekends aren't battles over chores or spending. My bank account finally reflects one adult, not two. And for the first time in a long time, I'm excited for boring. Boring is safe. Boring is stable. Boring is mine. Dylan wanted to walk away from toxic women. I helped. Maybe one day he'll thank me. Probably not. But that's okay. I'm not doing any of this for him. This chapter, this quiet, this peace, it's all for me. And that feels like the real ending.